Hello, welcome back to the Board Games 4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, and we generally talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about a reprint of a 1979 classic. We're going to be talking about Dune, and this is a game where you will be attempting to take control of a certain amount of strongholds whilst acquiring this addictive drug called spice that will boost your enemy's presence on the planet of Arrakis and help you to win the game. And in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules, because there are a gazillion of them. We're going to be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, and then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Dune is worth your time and effort in 2020. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you after this. Board Games 4K. So, Dune. How'd you play this game? So Dune is split over 9 phases, and you'll just go through the 9 phases and then you'll rinse, wash, repeat until somebody has taken control of a certain number of strongholds depending on the player count. So say if you're playing with 5 players, the first player to take control of 3 strongholds, or 4 if you're in an alliance with somebody else, they will win the game at the end of phase 9 if they're still in control of that number of strongholds, right? So the first phase is the storm phase, and this is where the storm will move. And in the first round, the 2 players that are on either side of the storm will take one of the battle wheels. They'll choose a number between 1 and 20, and then they'll add the number together, and that's how many spaces the storm will move around the board in the first round. And in subsequent rounds, if you're playing with a Fremen faction, they will draw a card from the storm deck, and then that will tell them, they'll have some inside information that will dictate which way and by how many spaces the storm will move in the next round. They'll keep doing this. They have their own little storm deck that will give them some of that inside information. So you've got to remember, if any spice or any players' forces are in any of the territories that are in the sector that the storm passes through or lands in, they're wiped out. But the Fremen have got some special abilities that sort of limit the amount of forces they lose to the storm, yeah. So the second phase is the spice blow phase, and this is where spice will appear on the board. And I think the Atreides faction gets some inside information. They know where the spice is going to be located in the next round. So what you'll do, you'll draw the top card of the spice deck, and then that much spice will appear in that region, and then you'll discard that to discard pile A, and then you'll draw another spice card, and then you'll do the same thing and you'll discard it to discard pile B. But if you draw a Shire Halud card, then a sandworm will appear and destroy a certain number of troops in that territory, and then you'll have a nexus phase where people can make or break alliances, and every faction has got an alliance specific ability. You can sort of basically borrow your allies' advanced or special abilities if you're in an alliance with them, right? So the third phase is the charity phase, and what you're doing this round, you're basically, if you've got 2 or less spice, you'll get an extra spice, and I think the Bene Gesserit faction will always get 2 spice in this round. After that, you'll go into phase 4, and this will be the bidding round, and the Atreides faction will draw a number of cards from the treachery deck equal to the number of players, and then basically you'll auction off these cards blind bidding, but the Atreides faction will know what's on the card, so nobody else will know what's on the card. So you'll basically start bidding at 1 in turn order, and you'll go around until everyone's passed or somebody's bought a card, and then the next player in turn order will then open the bidding, and you'll keep going around until either everybody's got a card or everybody's passed. And if everybody passes, then the bidding is over and all the cards are discarded. So you've got to be careful that you at least bid on something. You've got to remember also that when you pay your spice, you always give it to the Emperor. The Emperor will always get all the spice from the bidding, but the Emperor will always pay to the bank, right? So these treachery cards, they're basically sort of either special weapons, or you've got special abilities. You've got Karama cards, which allow you to cancel out other people's special abilities, sort of like a flare card from Cosmic Encounter, that sort of thing. And you've also got other special cards that will destroy parts of the board. And in order to take part of bidding, you can only have a hand limit of 4. So if you've got 4 cards, you can't get any more cards into your hand. Do you know what I mean? So the fifth phase is the revival phase, and this is where you'll pay spice to revive your dead troops from the Telexu tanks, and so you can also get your leaders back. If you've got a leader token that's gone into battle, which we'll talk about in a bit, then if they're in the Telexu tanks and all your leaders have been destroyed, then you can get one leader back per turn by paying the cost of the spice on the leader, right? So then we move into the shipment and movement phase, and in this phase you'll be shipping your troops from space in your reserve onto the board, and then you'll basically be making a movement, and you can only do that once. You can make one shipment and one movement, and there's special abilities whereby the Space Guild's faction can ship in any point they want. Everyone else has to follow turn order, but they get a special ability where they can do whatever they want when they want to do it, and they only pay half to ship troops. So you'll always pay the cost of shipping your troops in spice, right, to the Spacing Guild. So that's, again, you'll just make one shipment from your reserve and one movement, right? So then we move on to the battle phase, and in turn order you will look around the board and you'll see it if you're involved in any battles. If you're first in turn order, you're classed as an aggressor and you will win ties. So what you'll do, if you're involved in multiple battles, you'll choose which one you want to do first. You and your opponent will grab a battle wheel. If you've got a leader or a cheap hero token, you will have to put one of them into the battle, and you'll slot the leader token into the battle wheel. There's some really confusing sort of aspects of this, where each force that you add to the battle that's in that territory, you don't have to add all your forces in the territory into battle. Their default value is half, right? So you have to pay spice to bring them up to full value. And that applies to the starred, more powerful forces as well. So you add spice to the battle, you can add a treachery card to the battle, whether that's a weapon or a defense. Projectile weapons can only be defended by projectile defense, and poison weapons can only be defended by poison weapons. You can add worthless cards to your battle if you want, just to sort of basically try and make a bluff, and then everyone will reveal. You work out whether or not you've won by the person with the highest attack strength. All troops that are committed to battle on both sides are destroyed, and then if you killed the other person's leader, then you'll get spice equal to the strength of the leader, and you'll carry on going around until all battles have been resolved, and that's the battle phase. So the next phase is the spice harvest phase, and if you've got troops in a region where there is spice, you'll be able to collect the amount of spice dependent on how many troops you have in that region. And then you'll move on to the Mentat pools phase, where you will check to see if anybody is in control of a certain number of strongholds that will allow them to win the game. And that's only basically how you play Dune. So what do we like about Dune? So the first thing I want to make clear is that we've only played Dune once. I sort of remember back in the early 80s, a friend of mine had this game. I'm pretty sure we played it when I was really young, but I can't really remember. It's very, very foggy. So I want to make it clear, this is based on one play. We've only played this once, so obviously take this review with a pinch of salt. We haven't got any sort of in-depth knowledge of this game, so I want to make that clear from the offset, right, that we've only played this once. So the first thing that we really like about this game is the special abilities tie in with the theme really, really well. And whilst I haven't read the book, I did go back and watch the really, really awful David Lynch movie from 1984. And that was really tough going. But we did realise that the special abilities and the advanced special abilities of each faction tie into the theming of the game, of the Dune universe, or Duniverse, or whatever they call it, very, very well. And so you've got the Bene Gesserit, who have got the ability of mind control, and they can control how people react and what cards they play in battle. The Fremen, obviously, where they're natives of the planet Arrakis, they get special abilities where they get special treatment when the storm or sandworms come up, but they don't have much of an income, So it really ties in really well with the theme. The special abilities are tailored around the theme, and that's great. So the second thing that we really like about Dune is that even though there's 9 rounds, it seems like a lot when you first open the rulebook, like bloody hell, 9 rounds. They do flow real well, and it's really, really easy to follow the 9 rounds. Obviously, there's a few things that sort of muddle that up, as we'll talk about in a bit, but all you got to do is just follow the 9 rounds, really easy, and then you just keep going until somebody occupies a certain amount of strongholds, and that makes things really, really simple, and the game flows really smooth. So the third thing that we really like about this is the way that the factions interact really well with each other, and that means that this game plays best with all the factions on the board, because this game, it seems as though, since it was quite an old game, it was released in 1979, they've been subject to a lot of house ruling over the years, and obviously you got the 2 expansions from the original game that sort of made their way into this reprint, and it does seem like this version of the game has taken all the best bits from all the different house rules that have occurred over the years and all the different revisions that the game has seen and melded them in, and it just seems like each faction faction bounces off each other with the alliances, with all the special abilities that sort of interact. It's like a nice uniform web of stuff that's going on in the game. So that follows on to the next point, where we feel that this game is intrinsically balanced. It's absolutely completely balanced. Every faction's got pros and cons that work with and against each other's faction, depending on what you're trying to achieve in a game. And it's very rare that you see a game that is so well balanced. I think that comes down to the fact that this is quite an old game, and it's been revised with a lot of house rules through multiple plays and very dedicated fan base to this game. So if you want a really, really balanced sort of area control diplomacy game, this is the one to go for. So what don't we like about Dune? So the first thing that we don't like about Dune is the advanced combat system drove us up the wall, and it made no sense to us, because where your forces are off the bat, they're at half strength. Why not just make it so that they're at one strength, and then when you add one spice, they increase in value by 1? I mean, it doesn't make any difference. I know you've got the starred forces that have a base value of 2, but if you add 1 to that, you're still going to be adding 1 to it. So it made absolutely no sense to us. It just bogged the game down. We ended up thinking you add the spice to the battle wheel, and then you have to remove the spice from your supply after you've completed the battle. I mean, it makes no sense. Why not just have it at base 1 and then add 1 spice to bolster your forces, rather than bring it up to normal level? And the combat system there just made our head ache. It's very difficult to keep track of. Maybe we're just stupid. We haven't played this game. We only played this game once, obviously, but I think next time round we'll do it the other way. And maybe, I don't know if that's going to unbalance the game. Who knows? But it just took a load. That will take a load off. So the second thing that we found quite frustrating with our first playthrough of Dune is the amount of special rules, the sort of exceptions that occur in this game, and that's brought about by the advanced rules. I know they do recommend that you play the basic game a couple of times, but that's like a watered down version of the full experience. So you're taking so much out of the game, you're only playing it at third strength, right? So we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to play the basic game, so we jumped straight in, and it was sort of overwhelming. I didn't see the point in playing the basic game because it just seemed like so much was stripped out of it. So it was a sort of a difficult decision to what to do. Did we want to spend our first game playing a half-baked version of this, or did we want to go all in? And I think there's pros and there's cons to approaching this game in both ways. And had we played the basic version, I'm not sure whether we wanted to carry on playing this. I don't know. The amount of exceptions in this game is completely overwhelming and confusing. So the third thing that we didn't like about this is that the rulebook omits some really important information. It doesn't mention about Karama cards at all. It mentions what they do in the advanced rules, like, because when you play a Karama card, you've got a second ability in the advanced rules, but it doesn't actually tell you what a Karama card is. And I'm sitting there reading through the rulebook thinking, well, what the bloody hell is a Karama card? And I had to sort of basically piece it together myself. I realised that they're talking about cards in the treachery deck, and if that's not mentioned in before you get there, then how are you meant to know it's in there? There's also some special exceptions to do with playing a lasgun and a shield defence that causes something to explode, and that's not mentioned in the rulebook either, even though it's blindingly obvious to somebody who's got a good knowledge of this game. When you first jump in, there's certain things in a rulebook that aren't made 100% clear, and it is frustrating. So the fourth thing that we don't like about Dune, and this isn't a criticism of the game as such, it's more of a criticism of the way that we play games, and this game didn't suit our game group, because this game rewards multiple plays. And when I say multiple plays, I mean multiple plays. You have to play this game a multitude of times to fully appreciate its complexity and its nuances, and we just haven't got time for that. We play different games every week. We might revisit games regularly, but not enough to appreciate this game. And this isn't a game for people with loads and loads of games, because you're going to have to play this, dedicate time to this. It's not only just play this multiple times a year, you're going to have to play this regularly, because the rules are so dense. There's so many exceptions. If you leave playing this game for any stretch of time, you're going to forget all the different things, and you've got to play with the same faction every week, because there's so many different things going on in this game that if you get used to the Bene Gesserit by playing this, say, 10 times, switching over to a new faction, you're going to have to start all over again. And it's just not really a game that we're going to be playing enough to appreciate Dune. So to summarise, is Dune worth your time and effort for the next 25, 30 years? So we're going to say yes and no. For us personally, I don't know if it's a game that we will be playing regularly enough to appreciate its full complexity, right? But if you're a gamer that hasn't got that many games, that you just really want to sort of knuckle down with one game for the next 6 months to a year or whatever, if you really want to explore what a particular game has to offer, then Dune is definitely the game for you. We appreciate why this game has got such a hardcore following. It's been meticulously designed and it's been meticulously honed over the years. It is a complete package. The component quality is god awful in this one. Actually, they could have really added the opportunity to up their game with the components. I mean, look at the way that Starfarers of Catan has been reproduced, and the difference is astonishing. They missed the trick with the production value. But that aside, Dune just wasn't a game that we have got enough time for to appreciate, and that's nothing to do with the game. It's more to do with the time constraints and the way that we play games here in my gaff, right? So we're going to give Dune 3.5 out of 5 for us, but I'm sure that if we played this game multiple times with the same factions and we got all the rules exceptions down our brain and we could reel them off real quick, then this game would be a 4 out of 5. The only thing letting it down is the component quality, and also maybe there's just a little bit too much going on for our personal taste. That's Dune. Remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to our channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you next time.